What is this problem that the RBI is trying to solve? उन्होंने already 1 lakh crore system में push कर दिया है and they're trying to push another 50,000 crores this month. अब अगर चोट नहीं लगी हो तो बैंडेड तो कोई लगाता है नहीं. So what exactly is happening? Let's find out. Remember this guy? That's Vijay Mallya. He was once the king of beer in India until he defaulted on a massive 9,000 crores ka debt somewhere in 2015 during a period that is now called the twin balance sheet problem. आज हम इसी प्रॉब्लम को डिस्कस करेंगे क्योंकि कुछ बहुत सिमिलर इंडिया में फिर से हो रहा है. See, इंडिया की corporate debt has been growing at an alarming rate of 11%. And what happens when an entity's debt grows faster than its earnings? This makes corporate balance sheets look like, and that in turn makes bank की balance sheets look like, and that is the twin balance sheet problem. And ये twin balance sheet syndrome पहली बार नहीं हो रहा इंडिया में. See, post the GFC, इंडिया की growth was very fast. Very similar to what happened right after COVID. अभी ऐसे टाइम पे companies usually pick up a lot of debt in an effort to expand. Again, we've seen something very similar happening now. Companies have raised a record amount of debt in 2024. And इस बार तो it wasn't just corporates. Indian government की भी debt to GDP has risen astronomically. But then, as always happens, growth slows down because inflation picks up. Again, exactly what happened in this cycle. 2010 में इंडिया का inflation had reached 12% and the central banks had to raise interest rates to curb that inflation. But high interest rates का मतलब growth slowed down and uska matlab companies could no longer pay back the high loans that they had taken. The RBI first raised interest rates in 2010 and by 2014 we had seen stressed debt rise very sharply. By 2014, Mr. Mallya had also started to default. By 2015, all of this NPA had basically crushed the Indian banking system. इस बार भी the RBI raised its interest rates in 2021 and we're about 4 years into the high interest rate saga. We can already see the Indian microfinance sector struggling with NPAs almost doubling year on year. The last time this happened, Nifty Bank had corrected by 30%. PSU stocks like Canara Bank and BOB corrected by 60 to 80%, while SBI fell by about 50%. Even the private major ICICI Bank corrected by 50%. The only outlier was probably HDFC Bank, which had a shallower correction. Regardless, there was immense pain in the market. Now you might rightly ask, why do I think ये इस बार भी होगा? Maybe we have a better system, maybe we've evolved as people. And to that my answer is, humans don't change. We still have the same people leading our companies. अभी भी जो टॉप पे लोग हैं वो उतने ही greedy हैं, उतने ही ambitious हैं, and अभी भी हमारे checks and balances are not really doing too well. The crisis with IndusInd is a prime example of how flawed our system still is. So instead of just crossing my heart and hoping to die, I'm going to trust history, which tells me that 100, 150, 200 सालों से किसी भी country में, किसी भी culture में, at any level of wealth, the same thing repeats every time. So unless I'm proven wrong, I'm going to bet on the side of history. Add to that the fact that I don't think companies' की earnings is going to improve anytime soon. See, the same circle that had increased India's consumption is now hurting it. इंडिया में कंजम्पशन इतनी तेज बढ़ा था बिकॉज इंडिया का स्टॉक मार्केट इतनी तेज बढ़ रहा था. The people of my generation could spend a lot of money because we saw our stocks rising, which means our savings were taken care of. So we could freely spend what we were earning. But as the stocks have declined, people have started to become a little more reserved with their spending. And unless the stock market rises, people won't increase their spending proportionately. Which in turn means that the stock market cannot rise because company earnings nahi badhengi. And that's the vicious circle that is now hurting India. If that is to happen, the bank NPAs will rise very sharply in this coming result season. And that is what I'm waiting to watch. If I see NPAs rise, which I expect will happen, it's good that I don't invest in banks right now. I might even be shorting some of them just to make sure that I can profit from this analysis. Now, if that does not come to pass and we find that Indian banks have managed to manage their IPOs pretty well, then we can go long banks, but I would still be very skeptical, and HDFC is probably the only bank that I would want to go long on. Till that happens, history tells me that पिछले 30 साल में हमने 3 NPA crises देखी हैं, one every 10 years, and 10 years is about the length of an economic cycle. So every time India sees a growth spurt, People get greedy, people get overambitious, they take too much loan, they default and the banks suffer. I don't think it's going to be different this time, until I'm proven wrong.